This is the Procedures Initiative, and these are the points. I'm Chris Kent, and I'm joining Chris Bean. Hello, Mr. Bean.
Hello, sir.
Let's talk about your conversation with Christopher Hensley, back on the Three Chris podcast. Man, what episode did we have Chris Longton on? That was like
6 or 7.
Long time ago. But finally, the Three Chris's return, but not really a return because it wasn't Chris Longton. Anyways, Christopher Hensley. Really enjoyed sitting down, talking with him. I mean this as a compliment, and hopefully it's taken that way, but I didn't know I could ever actually be interested in retirement funds or finances. But talking to him made me more interested and kind of aware of kind of that planning and a lot, the complexities of it and what really goes into it. So really appreciate him coming on, talking with us and walking us through some of that stuff. Even though, we're not at retirement age, we can still start to put into motion some plans and some strategies to help us when we do come to that point in time. So anyway, thoughts on Chris?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you said that because I was thinking like his energy comes up first, right? And it doesn't matter what communication, what information you're trying to communicate. If you communicate it in a very boring, bland way, it's going to be a very boring, bland communication. But he did not have that, and the information was dense and tough, and certainly not the way that I would have expected the conversation to go. But it was wonderful and refreshing to have the energy that he brought to that conversation. It made it much more easy to understand, and it was clear that he has been communicating this information for such a long time and made it very easy to understand and again, enjoyable to listen to for sure. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up his energy because, that's a huge component in not only his job as the financial advisor, the financial guy, but also his podcast, and the podcast he has still revolving around the same kind of topic, but now you're bringing in that more personal connection, the communication, the ability to get other people excited about this kind of topic. And I think that's, as you said, is a credit to him and his energy and his ability and all these things, because again, it's not the number one topic I think most people want to sit down and think about or talk about.
Right. And I think that being in broadcasting, because he started in broadcasting on a radio show and then turned that into a podcast for 10 years, like the amount of information he's had, and it's also his day job. It was interesting. We were talking a little bit earlier today about having a coherent identity, being that same type of person across all the fields. And really, seemingly, he is that. He has his day job, it's his passion, and he's doing the broadcast and podcasting about it. So what a excellent example of what a coherent identity can and likely should be, because he is that same type of person across all of those endeavors. And I can imagine that the clients that he has, because of the energy, because of the passion that he has for this information, they are able to understand what he's telling them, right? Because we're not taught in school how we need to go about saving for retirement or what that looks like. So that, I'm sure that communication style that he has, that energy, the passion that he has for that, really eases that communication in and makes it so much better for them. But it's because of that coherent identity that he has. He is that same type of person. He's got that same information. I'm sure he has that same energy that he's bringing to all of his endeavors.
Right. And we briefly mentioned, kind of the motivation behind his strategies for saving as well. And we talked about how he has a holistic financial planning approach. He considers all the factors, not just how much money you can put in the bank, but, thinking about taxes and potential living expenses, trying to look at the whole picture. And if he doesn't think that someone is ready to account for all of that, if someone is ready to plan for all of that, then he's not as willing to take them on, because he wants to make sure that they're completely and totally set up, because he's someone who cares about these people. Where we mentioned, the idea or topic of other financial advisors and planners that they, see your $500,000 and they're just going to take it and put it because it's money they can put away, and they don't really care about what might potentially happen down the road or what other factors you need to consider. And so it speaks to his energy, speaks to his person as someone who genuinely cares about other people and what's going to happen to them or what is happening to them in their lives and what's going on. And that holistic approach, again, is a huge factor of that. And I don't think he would have that or be able to maintain that kind of approach if he didn't have the same energy, the same care, the same interest in the people that he's dealing with and kind of helping through his profession.
Yeah, and of course, having morals and principles like that is widely important, something that I think everybody should have. But it's not something that we often see in practice, especially not in business. Because, okay, think about this. If somebody comes to him and then they have all this money and they want to invest in him, but they're not willing to do all the things that he wants them to do it like, then he tells them no. Then he's losing out on that. So is the client. And the client perhaps more so is losing out because not only are they losing out on that potential investment opportunity to grow their wealth, but they're also not getting the extra benefits, the holistic approach as he's trying to deliver it to them. But because they're unwilling to do that, they're losing out. And he's able to see that if they're not able to put all their eggs in one basket, sort of say, or put all their eggs in his basket, maybe it would be better, then that's not going to be a good fit. They're not going to work together. And it's at his detriment, but really it's at the client's bigger detriment because they're not allowing him to help them the way that he knows that they can or should be. So it's not very often that you run across people who have morals and principles that are firm and strong and they stand by those. Because especially when money is involved, then all of those things go out the window. So being able to be the type of person he is and have those morals and standards and principles and have all of the wherewithal to be able to stand his ground on that and hold that line, I truly hope that there's more people doing work like that in not just in the sector that he's in, but across whatever their job is doing. If the listeners, if you could be this type of person to stand by the principles like what Chris is doing, then so I'm reminded of a quote by Zig Ziglar and I heard this. We talked a couple weeks ago, perhaps when I met with John, that I have been listening to Zig Ziglar since I was in high school. In fact, I had to drive from high school to work, and it was about a 35-minute drive. So the whole time I was in the car to and from work, I was listening to Zig Ziglar CDs at the time. And one of the things that I heard back then that has really stuck with me is you can have anything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. And I think that is something I've held on to. That's a core of who I am. I do my best to live like that. But if we can all do our part to live like that, I think that would be a true way of saying what Chris is doing is he's doing his part to help all these other people to get what they want so that he in turn can get what he wants. That speaks volumes for the type of person that he is.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Speaking of the type of person Chris is, he's definitely the guy to go to for some of the financial advice. So I won't try to be long-winded in it, but a few tips that he gave us for any point in time trying to prepare for, retirement, pre-retirement, things of that nature. And part of his holistic approach, of course, you mentioned savings. That's the number one thing you can do is just work on savings, trying to be putting money away, consistently putting that money away. And, something he mentioned is kind of like, the set it and forget it savings. So if you have an employer or an account or a bank or something where you can automatically put money in and have that consistently reoccur, try to do that because you don't have to think about it. You're going to think, okay, each week I got to take out this much and put it. It just happens. You're not worried about it. It's just part of the process. And, speaking of the automatics, the automations, he's also staying on top of the way that the world is going with automations and technology. And he's a big proponent of that, embracing innovation for, time management, for this set it and forget it kind of savings. If you can have something, an automation in place that's going to take care of these things for you, or if you have an employer that will match savings you put away in 401ks or plans and things like that, take advantage of those things. Just try to make it something automatic, make it something consistent. And then, we also talked about the idea that it's never too early, but it's also never too late. If you can start planning, if you can start saving, do it when you can. By the time you're 50, you might have to play catch up, but you should start then. It's not too late, quote unquote. It's not like, oh, well, I might as well just give up. No, if you can, start where you are, or if you can start when you're 21, start then. Start putting that money away, because as he said, you're going to run across people who aren't going to say, "Oh, I saved too much." No, they're going to say, "Oh, I didn't save enough." So, if at any point in time you can start doing that as well. And so, like I said, there's just a few main topics or main points that he made about the planning. But if you need any more information, any more advice, go to Chris. He's got your back.
Yeah, I think that savings, of course, is the number one thing that he mentioned, because that's the easiest thing that anybody could do. We can put money away and not save it, right? Save this money for later on down the road. And we all know at some point down the road, we're going to get to a place where we are not capable of working anymore. And hopefully we get there and we stop working before we get there, because he talked about there's the three phrases. There's the go, the slow go, and the no go, as far as the retirement goes. And with that in mind, you want to be able to retire. You want to be able to set yourself up so you can retire and still be in that go phase where you can go and do the things you want to do. And then you move into the slow go phase where you can still move through and do the things you want to do, but you're just going to be a little bit slower than you would otherwise be. And then there's the no go, where you probably are past the point where you should be moving and doing those things anyways. But understanding that we're all going to get there. Right? We're all going to get, well, I guess we could die early, but theoretically, ideally, that was really, really sorry. Listen, hopefully we all get there to the point where we can retire. And if we all get to the point where we retire, we need to have some sort of money so that we can do things on that side. Otherwise, I mean, what's the alternative? You work until you die? That's not necessarily what I want to do.
And that's the part of the holistic approach, which Chris brought up. I didn't even think about it. I mean, I'm in my 20s, so hopefully I don't have to think about it for a long time. But, you might have that mindset, oh, I'll just keep working till I die. But what are you going to do when you can't work? What are you going to do when you can't get up and walk, or you can't lift something, or you can't type? Your body is going to stop you from doing those things at some point in time. And so, again, that holistic plan is being prepared for that. Like you said, the go, slow go, no go. Even if you want to get up and go to work, there's going to come a day when you physically can't do that. And so being able to plan for that, and part of this retirement is huge too. I'd never thought about that. I guess maybe I had the same mentality as I'll just work until I die, but I might not be able to work until I die, because hopefully I can live for longer past that point.
Well, and the interesting thing too is he talks about the psychological aspect of retirement, because it's not just you and we talked about this in the show too, from preschool age all the way through your life, Monday through Friday, you get up at a certain time, you do a certain thing, and then you get done at a certain time. Like Monday through Friday from childhood, your earliest remembering. I don't know that I can remember past preschool or much of preschool. So probably the earliest point that you can remember all the way until where you are now, you've gotten up on Monday and done something on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then off on Saturday and Sunday, as long as you have a quote unquote normal type of job. Anyways, but that's a standard thing that you've done for your entire life. And then get to the point where okay, now I'm done. Right. And we talked about this too, that you don't want to just be the type of person that lays in the recliner, because then, like you said, you're just waiting to die. And I said, and I think I paraphrased this from Jordan Peterson, but you don't want to live in paradise and be on the beach, laying on the beach drinking mojitos, because you do that for like 3 days, and then you're drunk and you're baking in the sun. Like very quickly that turns into a not very pleasant experience very quickly. And so you don't want to do that. You have to kind of strategically think about what you're going to do in that time frame after you retire, so that you can still be functioning, right? You like plan some hobbies, or take up gardening or whatever it is, but you have to do something with that time, because you have literally been programmed for all of your life to get up at a certain time, to do something for a certain time, and then be done. But that be done part has always been the smallest section. But in the end of life, after you retire, that's all you have. So find something that you can do. And I think that you talk about the holistic approach. I think that part of that is understanding and helping to understand that hey, you're going to have to find something to do. Don't just plan to sit on the recliner and watch TV the whole time. Build some connections with your family and go out and see things while you still can early on in that go type of phase. But do something, right? Understand there's something that you have to do something. Otherwise you just, oh man, I can imagine, what retirement is going to look like for my dad, and I can only imagine after seeing what that looks like for him, which is going to be really interesting, because he is not the type of person that stops at any point through his life at all. So what that's going to look like for him, and what retirement's going to look like for him, and then for me to be there as well. Like, that's very interesting.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I would agree that, sitting in the sun drinking a mojito might be nice for like a day, but after that day, I'm like, all right, let's get up and do something. So trying to plan for that, and what you're going to do afterward is huge. Again, hopefully it's not. Well, it isn't going to be for a long time, but trying to think about that now and engage with those thoughts and ideas is important. And speaking of things that you want to do, Chris also loves to exercise his passion for finance through his podcast and his passion for podcasting. And we had, a great conversation about podcasting, kind of things that happen behind the scenes and kind of the benefits that we find from it. As far as being able to learn from other people, connect with other people, be presented with kind of contrary or different ideas than what we're used to, and be part of that world is something that we enjoy. And it was awesome to be able to connect with him and hear his passion and his side of that story. Something similar, something's a little bit different, but having something else that you can do, let's say now and also in retirement kind of phase, is going to be important. And Chris obviously has found something that he cares about professionally, and on the other side of it too, being able to do something that he enjoys in his free time, quote unquote, because it's still part of his mission and his job. But again, being able to find something that he likes to do and invest in that as well is crucial. And it's nice, again, like I said, to be able to talk through some of his ideas about the podcasting world and what he enjoys doing and how he interacts with it.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing was, so podcasting is for us, it's a hobby, it's a passion. And I don't know, you know one other person I can think of that has a podcast. I don't know anybody else besides us that have podcasts, like personally, that I can, talk to candid about this. And so it was helpful and refreshing to have kind of a candid conversation about podcasting, like you said, like the behind the scenes workings of what the podcasting realm is. And for somebody that's been doing it for 10 years, like 10 years, Chris, if you're listening to this, congratulations, 10 years, good job making it that far. We're all told that in the podcasting realm, if you make it past 10 episodes, then you're in the top 1%. So after 10 years, you must be in the top 0.001%. So congratulations on that. And being true and committed to that for such a long time. What a wonderful example of the passion that you have for this.
Make sure you follow us on social media. You can find the podcast at Prestigious Pod.
You can find me, Chris Bean, at Chris Bean Official.
You can find me, Mr. Kent, at Mr. Chris R. Kent.
And if you like our content and would like to subscribe to our email, you can do that via our social media or on the website.
Make sure you also join our Discord for exclusive content and personal interactions.
If you would like to be coached on how to live a more prestigious life by me, Chris Bean, you can do that by reaching out on one of my social medias or by emailing the podcast at prestigiousinitiative@gmail.com.
Those are the points. Make sure you come back next week for even more points and another great conversation. Until next time, I'm Chris Kent.
And I'm Chris Bean.